My sister stole my identity, maxed out my credit, and now wants me to bail her out of prison. I, 32, female, am at my wit's end, and I genuinely don't know what to do. This is a long one, and it's complicated, but I desperately need advice. My older sister, Clara, 35, female, has always been difficult. That's putting it mildly. From childhood, she was the golden child in my parents' eyes, despite a consistent pattern of manipulative behavior, petty theft, from me, mostly, and an absolute refusal to take responsibility for anything. My parents, bless their hearts, always saw her as misunderstood or going through a phase, while I was constantly told to be more accommodating, more understanding, to just let it go for the sake of family harmony. This dynamic set the stage for years of resentment, and ultimately, the catastrophic situation I find myself in today. It started subtly, as these things often do. When we were teenagers, Clara would borrow my clothes without asking and return them stained or damaged. She'd take money from my wallet, always denying it vehemently, even when I had clear proof. My parents would usually brush it off, saying I must have misplaced it or that Clara forgot to ask. This gaslighting made me doubt myself constantly and fostered a deep distrust. I learned early on that relying on my parents for justice against Clara was a fool's errand. I had to protect myself. After high school, I worked incredibly hard. I put myself through college, often working 2 jobs, to avoid relying on my parents or, God forbid, Clara for anything. I graduated with honors, landed a decent entry-level job in marketing, and slowly but surely started building my own life, far away from the constant chaos that seemed to follow Clara. She, on the other hand, bounced from one failed venture to another. She'd get a job, last a few months, get fired for various reasons, usually involving tardiness, theft, or insubordination, and then move back in with my parents, only to repeat the cycle. Each time, my parents would welcome her with open arms, cover her expenses, and lament about how unfair the world was to their sensitive Clara. About 5 years ago, things escalated significantly. I was living in a different state, finally feeling a sense of peace and independence. I had a good job, a steady relationship with my now husband, David, 33, male, and I was working towards buying my first home. Then, the first red flag appeared. I received a collection notice for an unpaid medical bill from a clinic I had never visited. I immediately called the clinic, and they informed me that the bill was for a Clara, my last name. My heart sank. I knew, with a sickening certainty, what this meant. I confronted Clara, gently at first, thinking there might be some misunderstanding. Her reaction was pure Clara, outrage, denial, and then a complete meltdown where she accused me of trying to sabotage her. My parents, predictably, sided with her, suggesting I was overreacting and that Clara would never do such a thing. This made me furious, but I had learned to pick my battles. I painstakingly went through the process of proving the bill wasn't mine, which involved countless phone calls, notarized letters, and a significant amount of stress. It was resolved, but the incident left a bitter taste. I started checking my credit report religiously. A year later, the real nightmare began. I was applying for a mortgage with David. We had saved diligently, had excellent credit scores, and were excited about our future. Our mortgage application was denied. The reason? A massive amount of undisclosed debt and a severely damaged credit score. My world crumbled. I pulled my full credit report, and what I saw made me physically ill. There were multiple credit cards opened in my name, all maxed out. Personal loans, also in my name, defaulted. Utility bills in various cities I had never lived in, all unpaid and sent to collections. The total debt was staggering, well over $100,000. And every single address, every single name on those accounts, pointed to Clara. I was in shock. I couldn't breathe. My sister, my own flesh and blood, had systematically stolen my identity and financially ruined me. David was, understandably, devastated. Our dreams of a home were shattered. He was incredibly supportive, though, and immediately helped me start the arduous process of untangling this mess. This time, I didn't go to Clara directly. I went straight to the police. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Explaining to an officer that your own sister had committed such a profound betrayal felt surreal. The police, however, were very understanding and immediately opened an investigation. They gathered all my evidence, which was extensive. The paper trail Clara left was sloppy, riddled with her actual name and contact information often mixed in with mine. My parents' reaction was exactly what I expected. They were furious at me, not at Clara for her crimes, but at me for getting the police involved and ruining our family. They pleaded with me to drop the charges, to just work it out, to give Clara another chance. They even offered to pay off some of the smaller debts if I would just forgive her. I refused. This wasn't about a few $100s. This was about my entire financial future, my trust, and years of abuse finally culminating in an act that could land me in bankruptcy. I told them, clearly and calmly, that I would not drop the charges, and that if they truly wanted to help Clara, they should encourage her to cooperate with the authorities. Of course, that didn't happen. The investigation took months. Clara went into hiding for a while, staying with various friends, people she'd likely manipulated into housing her. Eventually, she was located and arrested. The evidence against her was overwhelming. She had used my social security number, my birth date, and even forged my signature on documents. She had redirected mail, intercepted bills, and opened accounts online. It was a sophisticated, years-long scheme. The legal process was agonizing. Clara pleaded not guilty initially, dragging things out. My parents continued to harass me, sending me tearful voicemails and accusatory emails, painting me as the villain who was sending their poor daughter to prison. David was my rock during this time. He attended every court date with me, listened patiently to my breakdowns, and reminded me constantly that I was doing the right thing. Eventually, facing undeniable evidence and the prospect of a much harsher sentence, Clara took a plea deal. She pleaded guilty to multiple counts of identity theft and fraud. She was sentenced to 3 years in state prison. The judge also ordered restitution, which, frankly, I don't expect to ever see a penny of. My credit was destroyed, and it took me years of diligent work, with David's financial support and guidance, to slowly rebuild it. We still haven't bought a house. That dream is still deferred. The emotional toll has been immense. I went to therapy for anxiety and trauma. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I've ever experienced. I went no contact with Clara and minimal contact with my parents after her sentencing. I couldn't bear their constant gaslighting and their complete inability to see the reality of Clara's actions. They visited her regularly in prison, always sending me updates about how hard it was for her, how remorseful she was, how much she missed me. I ignored all of it. I needed to heal. Now, here's where the latest twist comes in, and why I'm posting here. Clara is up for parole in a few months, and my parents have been relentless. They've been calling, texting, even showing up at my apartment building, which they only know the general location of, thankfully, not the exact unit number. Their new plea is that I need to write a letter of support for Clara's parole hearing. They say it would show the parole board that she has family support and that I forgive her. They believe this letter would be the deciding factor in her being released. And then, the kicker. My mother, in a particularly tearful voicemail yesterday, told me that Clara needs me. She apparently believes that once she's out, she can live with me, at least for a little while, until she gets back on her feet. My mother actually suggested that I owe it to her to help her reintegrate into society because I'm the reason she's in there in the first place. The audacity, the sheer nerve, made me want to scream. David is absolutely against any contact with Clara, let alone having her live with us. He reminds me of everything we went through, the years of struggle, the emotional damage. He says that if I even consider it, it would be a huge breach of trust in our relationship. And I agree with him, rationally. I know, deep down, that inviting Clara back into my life would be catastrophic. It would undo all the healing I've done. It would jeopardize my relationship with David, who has been nothing short of amazing through all of this. But then there's that tiny, insidious voice in the back of my head, fueled by years of parental conditioning, that whispers about family duty and forgiveness. My parents have always held such sway over me, making me feel guilty for standing up for myself against Clara. They make me feel like I'm a cold, heartless person for not extending an olive branch. They say I'm denying Clara a chance at redemption, though I have spent the last few nights tossing and turning, unable to sleep. Do I owe her anything? Is there any universe in which I should write that letter or even consider letting her stay with me? My gut screams no, absolutely not. But my parents' constant pressure is starting to chip away at my resolve. I feel like I'm being pulled in 1,000 different directions. I'm angry, I'm scared, and I'm exhausted. What do I do? How do I deal with my parents? How do I shut down this pressure without completely destroying my relationship with them, which, at this point, might be inevitable anyway? Am I truly a bad person for refusing to help the sister who financially ruined me and caused me years of trauma? I need some objective advice, please. I feel like I'm losing my mind.